always an emergency, okay, to be clear, always. Your Honor, we have to, all day long. Filing, putting out fires, that's basically what the practice of law is. It appears that they're being asked to sign papers for their immediate removal. Thank you. Again, it's 646 ACLU losers. Thank you, period. Wow, that was horrible voicemail.
Not simply with traditional Republican voters or swing voters, but in some segments of our own base communities and in communities of color, including right here in New York.
Whoa! An ACLU lawyer gets destroyed by a judge in Texas. You see, this case is coming out of the Northern District of Texas in the case of WMM versus Donald J. Trump. And this is related to the AARP case, which was not the American Association of Retired People, but were other individuals who were saying, you can't afuera us out of the country. They got ACLU gangbanger lawyers on their cases, and then they filed in Texas. And remember here, they also filed in this similar case in DC in Judge Boasberg. Then they leapfrog the Fifth Circuit. Then they went right to the Supreme Court and more. And the Supreme Court issued a stay and said, don't deport any more people until we come down with further orders. But what happened was, right, in the aftermath, while all of that was going rapid speed, they filed in this court. They told this judge, you got 42 minutes, okay? We're asking for a stay. If you don't get back to us in 42 minutes, then we're going to appeal this puppy because we're going to consider that a constructive denial, and a denial is a final order. And we said so. And from that final order, we're going to appeal it to the Fifth Circuit. And they did, right? The judge didn't respond. And meanwhile, they're calling. These lawyers are calling this judge. Judge, you better file this. All the things. We're going to read the voicemail in a minute. But the judge's like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't order me to do anything, punks. So then they went to the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit laughed them out of there. They said, you gave him 42 minutes downstairs? That's ridiculous. And then suddenly it went up to the Supreme Court, and Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts and Judge Gorsuch were all like, well, actually, we'll grant a stay. For Lord knows why, Judge Alito came out yesterday and obliterated that, said, actually, we're pretty sure this is illegal. You guys said so yourselves like 2 weeks ago in your other orders, and now you're backtracking on all these stays. So it makes no logical sense. But anyways, all that's going on. This judge from the lower level court came out and he just shredded this ACLU lawyer. He says, listen, as the court mentioned before in a prior docket filing, the court received an ex parte communication from an attorney representing the petitioners, the gangbangers, on the evening of April 17, 2025. Well, all this was happening rapid speed. 42 minutes, judge, or else. Now, consistent with the code of conduct for federal judges, an ex parte means they're just calling the judge. They're calling the chambers. They're trying to communicate with the court without notifying or involving the other side, right? If you're talking to the judge, practice is you communicate with the other side. You say, hey, this is what I'm going to tell the judge. If you file a motion, you copy them. In fact, in many cases, before you file the motion, you send a courtesy copy to the opposing counsel and say, hey, this is what I'm going to file. What's your position on this? And they say, well, no opposition. We'll see what the judge does. Or I oppose vehemently. Here's why. Or I agree. I concur. Set a status conference, whatever. But here, they didn't do that, right? They just called the judge and they filed this stuff immediately, 42-minute demands, and the phone calls too. What the hell are you doing? You guys know better than this. Everybody knows this. Now, consistent with the code of conduct for judges, and this comes up a lot too, people say, well, how did the judges police themselves? Well, they have a code of conduct. They kind of got to follow it themselves. And if it's substantial enough, right, Congress can impeach them, but otherwise they're kind of managing themselves, right? It's a real serious situation of we investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong, which is why we get judges like Judge Merchan, Judge Engeron, Judge Beryl Howell, Judge Zenas. Now, in relevant case law regarding ex parte communication, so I'm going to follow the rule, says the court enters this order to provide all parties, including Trump and us, the American people, with the contents of the ex parte communication that the court received. Should any of the parties believe that a response is necessary, you may move and ask for permission to file that. Now, as a general rule, substantive ex parte communications with the court are prohibited, not allowed. ACLU gangbanger lawyers, the rules governing judicial ethics prohibit judges from engaging in substantive ex parte communications concerning pending matters, saying, quoting another case, saying ex parte communications may be fraught with peril, and judges must take great care with respect to ex parte communications, even in the most exigent of circumstances. So it's always an emergency, okay, to be clear, always. Your Honor, we have to, all day long. Filing, putting out fires, that's basically what the practice of law is. One fire after another. You're right, somebody comes, I got a warrant out. Somebody, well, this happened. This is constant, right? So you're always going to the court. Your Honor, my client needs this done like immediately, or someone's going to die immediately. Okay, better be real serious if you're going to contact us. Now, the Code of Conduct for the United States judges explains that judges should not permit or consider ex parte communications, quote, or consider other communications concerning a pending or impending matter that are made outside the presence of the parties or their lawyers. That's Canon 3A4. Now, even when circumstances may require such communications, the canon, the rules rules limit such communications to situations where the ex parte communication does not address substantive matters, and the judge reasonably believes that no party will gain a procedural, substantive, or tactical advantage as a result of the ex parte communication, right? So if you're calling and demanding, like the judge, do something now because now, that is going to result in a benefit to your side. Totally inappropriate. Let's say there's something illegal going on, or, something that is, beyond the ordinary scope of things where you can't just request a hearing for it. Even an emergency hearing, you can file emergency orders, request for a stay and all the things. We've seen it here many times, but that's not what happened. It says the ex parte communication from attorney Lee Gellert, Lee did this, counsel for the petitioners, does not meet this narrow exception for doing what he's done here. Now, the voicemail that he left addresses substantive matters, with Mr. Lee Garrett informing the court that his clients at the Blue Bonnet Detention Center, he says, Your Honor, clients at the Blue Bonnet Detention Center are being given orders to sign alien enemy orders and told they may be removed as soon as tonight or first thing in the morning. Voicemail. And this is related to the Alien Enemies Act. And he gives us the whole attachment. Here's the official transcript. Lee Gellert says the following, calls the court, which is pretty bold. Hi, this is Lee Gellert. I'm a lawyer at the American Civil Liberties Union calling about an emergency in the AARP case in Peter versus Trump. My phone number is 646 Loserville. It is 7:30 p.m. tonight. So this ACLU lawyer says, and we understand that our clients at the Blue Bonnet Detention Center are being given orders to sign alien enemy orders and told they may be removed as soon as tonight or first thing in the morning. This is related to the Alien Enemies Act. We would like to talk to the judge immediately and have the judge issue an order to have them not removed. The judge's understanding today, in his opinion, was that the government's representations would keep the proposed class safe. It appears that they're being asked to sign papers for their immediate removal. Thank you. Again, it's 646 ACLU losers. Thank you, period. Wow, that was horrible voicemail. So that's a certified transcript, and that voice is an accurate recreation of how pathetic and low T that individual was. So as you can see, that's what the judge got, and you can imagine if that ends up on your voicemail. Wow, pathetic. You're like, who? Who is this? Don't ever call me again. That's an order. All right, so the judge continued, and in his response, he said, so that weird person left this voicemail. He says, this is related to the Alien Enemies Act. He says, Mr. Gellert further stated, he says, it appears that his clients are being asked to sign this document. He also asked to talk to the judge immediately. I want to speak to your manager or have the judge issue an order to have his clients not removed, says this judge. Now, these communications go directly to the substance of their first motion for a TRO. You already asked for that, dorks, in your prior motion, and the subsequent motion for the same relief. Now, in discussing substantive matters, seeking to talk to the court immediately, and alternatively seeking to have the judge issue that order, the court believes that Mr. Gellert, the ACLU whiner, could have gained a substantive advantage in the proceedings by obtaining a TRO and a procedural and tactical advantage by making the request off the record ex parte in the evening, right? Totally inappropriate to do that. Now, he left this voicemail, even though the court earlier noted and ordered the petitioners to explain why they should not be required to provide notice to the court, right? He already issued a prior order. Hey, file your paperwork and explain yourselves why I should grant this under the rules and 65B. Now, the petitioners did not file the brief. I ordered them to file it. They didn't do that. They didn't explain anything under the rules. Instead, they provided notice to the acting U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Texas, Chad. What's up, Chad Meekum? Now, the court thus notes that the lawyers had not established prior to the voicemail any reason to believe that the ex parte communications of any kind were appropriate at all, right? It's like a matter of last resort or anything. Now, in light of the rules governing the ex parte communications and the substance of the voicemail, the court notes for the record that it will not permit or consider the voicemail. Now, the judges are further instructed under the rules that if a judge receives unauthorized ex parte communication bearing on the substance of the matter, the judge should promptly notify the parties of the subject matter of the communication and allow the parties an opportunity to respond, saying when a communication like this relates to some aspect of the trial, the judge should disclose this to everybody. Now, the court therefore enters this order notifying the government of the contents of the voicemail. The court did not return Mr. Gallen's whining phone call and did not otherwise have any ex parte communications with the petitioners or their counsel. Attached to this order is a transcript of the voicemail, and we read it. Should any of the parties believe that a response is necessary, they may move for leave to respond. Signed by Judge James Wesley Hendricks, U.S. District Court Judge out of Texas. And that was a lot of fun. I can't believe that dude sounded like that. But they're trying to figure out what to do and what their method messaging is. The Dem-S-13 is the new name of the gang. So here's the leader of the Dem-S-13 Democratic gangs called Hakeem talking about this on with some other liberals.
I think one of the main reasons that we lost the 2024 election was that we let millions of people stream across the border. So what is the Democratic plan to show people that we're serious about this problem?
We definitely have to be clear that we believe that we should have a secure border. That's first and foremost. And I think we've repeatedly endeavored to make that clear throughout this Congress. We were slow to act as an administration and as a party on the southern border crisis. And it hurt us not simply with traditional Republican voters or swing voters, but in some segments of our own base communities and in communities of color, including right here in New York.
Whoa! Illegal immigration. Look at him. He knows he's in trouble. He's got that little smirk on his face like, oh, I'm in trouble. Illegal immigration hurt communities of color. Get out of here, man. Is he going to put on a MAGA hat in a minute? Here, we also see that the press secretary called Caroline Leavitt says, what we're doing here is working, okay? The border was a disaster under these Democrats. Hakeem Jeffries should be doing cartwheels about this. He was just excited as can be. We should get the border under control because it's not so good. Well, guess what? Trump did, so put your MAGA hat on.
At the border, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to make America safe again. The Wall Street Journal captured the Trump effect in a recent article. Border crossings grind to a halt as Trump's tough policies take hold.
True.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection recorded its lowest southwest border crossings in history in March, and we're seeing the same successes at our northern border. Here's how the New York Post put it. Northern border sector previously overrun by illegal migrants sees dramatic drop in crossings. We haven't seen anyone since November, end quote. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, just 54 illegal aliens were apprehended in the Swanton sector of our northern border, which stretches more than 300 miles in March. This is a drastic 95% drop from the more than 1,000 border crossings that were caught in March 2024. This is a main hotspot area that recorded more than 80% of all apprehensions along the northern border during the 2024 fiscal year. And new reporting from the Washington Times fully highlights the difference in Joe Biden's disgraceful approach to the border compared to President Trump. Under Trump, border catch and release has dropped 99.99%
Look at those numbers, baby.
From worst Biden month. You can't get much
better than the vaccine.
that. This statistic in particular is astounding. Border Patrol agents caught and immediately released 189,604 illegal aliens into the United States in December 2023 at the height of the Biden border crisis. But under President Trump, Border Patrol agents caught and released only 20 illegal aliens into the U.S. in the month of February. Thanks to President Trump, operational control of the border is becoming a reality, and the administration's historic enforcement measures are yielding huge results. Illegal aliens are finally getting the blunt message. If you cross the border illegally, you will be swiftly deported and never return to the United States of America. Efforts to arrest the criminal illegal alien invaders are continuing to ramp up. ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of predatory sexual assault of a child in Cook County, Illinois. This week, ICE Denver arrested a Mexican national convicted of sexual assault of a child in Houston County, Texas.
No, they're barbers.
ICE Miami arrested a Nicaraguan convicted of aggravated battery in Hillsborough County, Florida.
Another
ICE
barber.
Houston arrested a Salvadorian national convicted of attempted sexual assault of a child and escape in Dallas County, Texas. And ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of aggravated sexual abuse of a minor in Illinois. Despite the Democrats' insane objections, President Trump will continue to embolden law enforcement officers to arrest dangerous legal alien criminals and keep our communities safe.
Yeah, and Democrats just nominated them all for Congress, so David Hogg is going down there right now with the rest of them to get them signed up to run in California, New York, and Chicago. So we'll see where the Democrats go from there, but obviously the numbers speak for themselves. We appreciate actual competency in securing America and protecting America's borders. Thank you, Caroline, for the update.